Yeah, some of these drones are large. They've been compared to SUVs, for instance. They have flashing lights. They move in erratic ways, which a hobbyist probably would not be able to accomplish. So the general feeling is that these are drones which are not from your general run-of-the-mill hobbyist. There's something more.
They are something more. And do we know where they're taking off from? I mean, what's the range of one of these drones?
We don't know the answers to those questions. Some of the drones have been observed coming.
I think the government knows, but they are just not telling us because they don't want to scare us. They don't want to create panic. That's why they are hiding the truth, but they probably know everything.
Over the Atlantic Ocean. Others have just been hovering around inland areas. So there's, I guess the answer is all of the above in terms of where they're coming from. As to their range, that we can only speculate.
We can only speculate. Now, officials have a variety of explanations. I saw some officials associated with the government saying, oh, these are manned aircrafts that are taking off and landing. We had another statement over the weekend saying that this is due to a change in FAA policy regarding manned aircrafts. And
not at all. These are drones. They are not manned aircraft at all. They are probably coming from a foreign power that wants to do some kind of intelligence, espionage, reconnaissance mission on our military base. That's what I believe.
Takeoff times. What do you make of the official statements we've received from the FBI, from the White House, from our nation's officials?
The statements leave a lot to be desired, and they're not entirely consistent with one another, which you'd expect in a fast-moving situation. But clearly, the American people are not buying it. And as we look at those statements, some of them look carefully crafted. And so at this point, we really need the President of the United States to actually address the American people and tell us what the federal government knows and what it doesn't know. And I think
too bad the President of the United States is completely incompetent and completely sick. He doesn't understand anything that is going on right now. Probably he's just looking at his vacation that he's gonna take for a couple of years now. When he retires completely at the end of January, he's probably not doing much right now, if you ask me.
That will calm a lot of the speculation.
Why do you think the Biden administration has not been more forthcoming? Is it that they themselves are still looking for answers, or what's at play here?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on inside the administration, and I don't know how much they know or don't know. But that is something that the American people would like to know, even if they're still searching for answers, because we are seeing all sorts of theories, and many of them are plausible, and many of them are ominous. And I think it's up to the President of the United States to tell us what the federal government knows and what it's doing.
The governors of New York and New Jersey have sought to calm residents, but they themselves are asking for answers and for more resources. Let's talk about where these drones have been sighted. Some have just been over residential neighborhoods. What do you make of where they've been spotted and if that means anything?
It means that who was ever operating these drones is very concerned about what might be in those residential neighborhoods. There have been reports, and you start to try to put through all of these reports. But there have been reports of spikes in radiation in the New York metropolitan area, 2 of them, one on each side of the Hudson. And so that leads to the conclusion that maybe they're looking for an implanted nuclear weapon. One thing we know.
That is a very, very plausible theory, that they are looking for nuclear activity in the region. That is very plausible, I believe so.
And that is, for more than a decade, U.S. officials have been worried about the North Koreans taking apart a device, smuggling the parts into the United States and reassembling it in the location of their choice. So this is not something which is just wild speculation. And when you talk about radiation, clearly this could be one of the things that the drones are doing. And that would explain why they're over residential areas, because the device could be planted in one of those places.
Yeah, as you can see, the drones are active all day, all night, and so they are probably trying to detect something or to take pictures, something that is only visible either during the day or during the night. It could be gas or it could be radiation, and that's totally possible.
Now, the reason why this speculation has gained some currency is because the Pentagon has said these are not military drones. And that's sort of, and they say it's not foreign. So if you put those two things together, it means they're domestic. These are obviously not drones operated by individuals. And that leads you to believe maybe Department of Homeland Security, maybe FBI, maybe even the CIA, even though they're not allowed to operate on American soil. So if the danger is serious enough, we could see the U.S. Taking emergency action like that. So until we hear from the president, until we get more information, until we get more consistent information, we have to plan for the worst.
So his theory is that a foreign power has basically hired some people to plant a nuclear bomb within the United States in fear of repercussion. And they are probably going to detonate it if they find that the United States crosses the line, or if they start some kind of conflict with the United States. This is very, very possible. There could be some rising tension right now between the United States, Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, that pushes them to secure a strong leverage against the United States by planting a nuclear bomb there. That's totally possible, and it's one of these theories that could be actually true. Unfortunately,
we have to plan for the worst. So is that North Korean scenario the worst in your mind, or is there another foreign actor theory that you've heard that has credibility?
Well, people have talked about the Iranians. A New Jersey congressman has talked about an Iranian mothership off the U.S. coast, which the Pentagon has specifically denied. Could be, if it's Iran, it's probably with the backing of other states. And that naturally leads us to think about both Russia and China. North Korea couldn't do something like this on its own, so that really brings into play China. Any number of foreign actors can be involved in this. Now, I have heard, and this is just rumor, that, for instance, the Air Force believes that these are foreign-operated drones. And that would clearly be inconsistent with the theory that I just talked about. But the Pentagon says no, they're domestic. So we're left with what we are left with are possibilities, many of them plausible, but all the plausible scenarios really are ominous.
Yeah, it could be domestic, and the government don't want to say that they are looking for a bomb to avoid any kind of fear from the public, any kind of panic, or it could be foreign. And some foreign countries, such as Russia or China, could be just spying on us, testing our defenses and spying on our military bases and how we operate, basically, to gather some information to prepare for a future conflict. That's also possible.
The analogies I've heard over the past week involves the spy balloon. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and if there are commonalities between these two incidents?
There's one commonality, and that is the apparent failure of the federal government, in this case, both the military and the president, to protect the American people.
I like how this guy just said it like it is. Straight up into the mic, be in front of millions of people to Forbes News. The government failed 2 times the American people. They failed to protect the American people. They failed to guard national security and the American airspace from foreign powers. It's insane that in this day and age that it is possible, that the government failed so bad to protect its own citizens, which would be the primary job of the government. It's insane to me that still could happen. This is a huge mistake, a huge failure for the second time even. Wow. Just wow.
The NORAD, North American Air Defense Command, said they were tracking this balloon when it lifted off and as it crossed the Pacific. And according to reporting, which is credible, the President of the United States was not notified until about 3 days after this had crossed into sovereign American territory. This balloon could have been shot down over Alaska, over Canada, without any danger to human life. And yet we allowed that balloon to survey U.S. nuclear weapon sites. Malmstrom, F.E. Warren, Minot Air Force bases, where we have all of our land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles, the Minuteman III. It passed close by Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, the home of U.S. Strategic Command, which controls all U.S. nuclear weapons. And it floated by Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, where we base all of our B-2 strategic bombers. The Chinese picked up invaluable information. They saw our reactions. It was a failure of the Pentagon, and it was, I think, the failure of the President of the United States. The parallel here is...
I 100% agree with what he's saying right there. It was a big mistake, a big failure to let that happen.
The failure of the National Command Authority, the President, failure of the Pentagon to protect the American people from a clear threat of some sort. If it's not foreign, then we need to know that, and we need a clear statement from the people who are there to protect us.
Clear statement from the people there to protect us. So if you were President Biden right now, what are the 1, 2, and 3 steps you would be taking right now to protect citizens?
Well, the first step is to address the American people. And even if he doesn't know, that's important for us to know. And so that clearly to me is number one. Number two and three is if these aren't ours, then shoot them down. We've got to a point where I know that causes danger and risk to people on the ground, but this crisis, I think, has gone so far that that is a risk that we will have to take.
I think it has gone way too far right now, and we have to end it very soon. Otherwise, we will look weak, and we will risk leaking some major information relevant to national security to some kind of foreign power. And we should never ever let that happen.
Once, peace and stability has been disrupted, sometimes you have to take risks. And we are risk averse because we've lived in peace for a long time. But we're no longer in a peaceful world. We have Russia that is waging war. We have a China that talks about war all the time. China and Russia are involved in conflicts and wars on 3 continents. And we need the President of the United States to have an honest conversation with the American people about the state of the world, because this is not peacetime anymore. So we have to take those risks.
I agree.
And if indeed it is a foreign power, we need to start imposing severe costs on those powers for a violation of American sovereignty, and this certainly putting the American people at risk.
Now, we are in a period of presidential transition, so I'll ask a similar question. What would your 1, 2, and 3 steps be for the president-elect when it comes to this issue?
We only have one commander-in-chief. We only have one federal government. And President Trump is a private citizen. He does not have the power of the federal government. He is not commander-in-chief. There is a commander-in-chief. His name is Joseph R. Biden Jr., and he needs to exercise those powers now.
Fair enough. when the president-elect takes office in January, if this is still an issue, what would you tell him? And more broadly, is there anything...
What? I cannot imagine that this issue would go on until the end of January without any action. This is not imaginable. In what world would you let these drones still fly for that long? This is insane to me.
About this issue that could translate to the president-elect's policies when it comes to China when he is in office?
Well, we don't know if China is behind the drones, but if it is, then we have to assume that we are close to war, because this shows an arrogance and a boldness of the foreign power. As the Chinese did with the balloons. You talk about parallels with balloons. That was
I agree.
really brazen. And it shows the Chinese don't respect us and they believe that they can do anything they want. So if these drones are Chinese or the Chinese are involved in some way, then we have to consider that we are close to war. And I believe that whoever is commander-in-chief has an obligation to talk to the American people about getting ready for terrible outcomes, because we have China's leader talks about going to war all the time. He's preparing to go to war. He's mobilizing civilians. He's firing military officers who are opposed to going to war. That's not to say that Xi Jinping has made the decision to go to war. But we do know one thing, Maggie, and that is Xi Jinping has made the decision to risk war. He's made the decision to risk war with American treaty allies, which means he is prepared at this moment to kill Americans. And we need the commander-in-chief, whether his last name is Biden or Trump, to talk to the American people about this. This is not an easy conversation. This is not a politically winning conversation, but the commander-in-chief's number one obligation is to protect the American people from foreign attack. And we are very close to that. And if these drones are indeed foreign, we have been attacked.
This guy is great. This guy tells the truth. This guy has clear thought. He knows exactly what's going on about the situation and what the American government should be doing. He is very smart, very, very clear about his thought in this interview. Great interview. Yeah, that's probably the best interview on the topic that I've seen in a while.
Those are sobering words, and we've covered a lot of ground, but is there anything else on your mind as it relates to these drone sightings and what it could mean for American national security?
If the more ominous scenarios are in fact true, then Americans need to prepare for being on their own for quite some time. Because the detonation of a nuclear device on American soil will not only cause panic, but it will cause, at least for some time, an inability of government to take care of people. So people need to be able to have enough food, enough water. They need iodine pills. This is not a conversation that the American people have had for a very, very long time. So we have not fought an enemy on our soil on a sustained basis since the War of 1812. But it's very possible that that could very well happen now, especially because we have very disturbing indications of preparations for attacks on American installations. And these have been going on now for months. Our government has not talked to us about it. Our government has not taken adequate measures to protect our infrastructure and our military bases. And the American people need to know that this is a very precarious situation. We think we're at peace. Our adversaries and our enemies, however, don't believe they are.
When you say possibility or probability, is there a percent that you would assign to that of a serious warlike outcome?
That's a bad question, honestly. There's no percentage behind it. It doesn't make any sense to assign a percentage. It is a black or white answer. It's either 0 or 100. You cannot say 50-50. It's a bad answer as well.
More than 50%. We have seen a militant regime in China talk about going to war. It's preparing for war. I can't think of a case in history when we have had such a regime preparing for war and not actually gone to war. We know that China is waging proxy wars around the world. We know of preparations for attacks on American installations. We know that China is behind some of this. So, yes, we have to assume it will occur.
Well, I don't think China wants war with the United States. China wants to be a prosperous country and makes its people's lives better like any country would. But it is dead set to get Taiwan back to the mainland China. And if it has to go to war with the United States to accomplish that, it probably will. Ultimately, it doesn't want war, but it wants Taiwan's back, and war is an option, even though it is not the preferred option from the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, at the head of China right now. Hopefully, this situation gets resolved soon. Hopefully, we find a solution. Hopefully, the world is at peace and no further war is created. Hopefully, everything is resolved. We will see and report on the situation right there on these channels. I appreciate you being here with me and watching to the end. Thank you very much for your support. Click right there to watch the next video and I will see you there. Bye bye.